Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Thursday, November 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. I'm recording this today in the noisy backstage area of a West Hollywood hotel where Variety is about to host our annual Business Managers Breakfast event. You heard all about that in yesterday's Daily Variety episode. Today, we'll hear from Pat Harvey, the Los Angeles local TV legend. She's being honored on Friday by the National Association of Black Journalists Los Angeles. And so is Variety's own Angelique Jackson. We'll talk more about Angelique after we hear from CBS Los Angeles anchor Pat Harvey. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Disney reported its fiscal fourth quarter earnings before the bell this morning. Like the rest of the big media earnings parade this month, it was a mixed bag of results. Streaming revenue is growing, linear TV advertising and affiliate revenue is sinking faster than streaming is growing. The big headlines from the 45-minute conference call with Wall Street analysts was that the ESPN standalone app that launched at the end of August is doing very well, according to Bob Iger. The Disney chief called it sports fans' dream. They didn't give out any hard numbers of subscribers, but they did say that 80% of signups to date have come through a Disney bundle, meaning somebody's buying ESPN with Disney Plus or ESPN with Hulu or both. Iger and Disney CFO Hugh Johnston struck a defiant tone on the YouTube TV standoff. They said they're ready to fight it out as the blackout heads into its third week. Iger, of course, was asked for his views on AI. He stressed that he sees the technology as useful largely as a marketing tool with Disney fans. There was not a peep during the call about Disney's CEO's succession plans. Disney's board of directors has promised to have some news on that front by early next year. Iger's current contract runs through the end of 2026. Overall, investors did not like much of what they heard from Disney this morning. Disney shares were down as much as 9% in early trading on Thursday. The Golden Globe Awards have tapped none other than Sarah Jessica Parker to receive the 2026 Carol Burnett Award, recognizing her contributions to the television business. SJP will join Cecil B. DeMille Award honoree Helen Mirren at this year's Golden Eve event that will be held a few days before the Golden Globe Awards are televised live on CBS on January 13th. The Golden Eve ceremony will air January 8th as a special on CBS and Paramount+. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now it's time for conversations with industry leaders and Variety journalists about news and trends in showbiz. Today we'll hear from a Los Angeles local news legend. Pat Harvey is one of LA's longest-serving news anchors at 36 years and counting. She's a cornerstone of CBS LA. In addition to Harvey, the three other honorees at the NABJLA's Scholarship and Awards Soiree are ABC7 reporter Tim Pulliam and ABC7 anchor Leslie Sykes. She marked 30 years at the ABC O&O in 2024, and receiving the Excellence in Entertainment Media honor is Variety's Angelique Jackson, our senior entertainment writer. We'll hear more about Angelique's career after my conversation with Harvey. As an LA native, the chance to talk to this respected mainstay of Southern California's airwaves was a real treat. One thing I must note, KCAL has recently changed the name of its news operation to CBS LA. I'm slow on the uptake sometimes, so you'll hear a lot of KCAL references from me in the interview with Pat, but the branding is now CBS Los Angeles. Pat, I watched KCAL the day it went all news. I know as a consumer and as a journalist how hard it is to cover an area like LA, Southern California. In your years as an anchor, what have you found have been the challenges of covering this sprawling, diverse area?
I'm going to tell you what advice I was given years ago when I worked in Chicago for WGN, the superstation. A gentleman who was an editor for the Chicago Sun-Times. I actually called him because I was told that this guy knows everything about the city and you need to go talk to him. So I
Uh-huh.
did. And the advice I got from him is to know the communities that you serve. And we serve a diverse community. So you need to know the Italian American community, you need to know the Hispanic community. Obviously, you need to know the Black community. And there's also a heavy Irish population here as well. I found that to be very useful, Cynthia. When I first moved to Los Angeles and started here, I reached out to the city council and a number of different cities, obviously not just Los Angeles, but also made myself available. It's very difficult to try to traverse this area because it is so large and our viewing area is so large. I love community service, and I think that is the most important way you get to know some of the people that you are delivering information to. I think it's crucial. The very first story that I covered, and I started in 1989 with Jerry Dunphy. As you may remember, Cynthia, we were on KHJ before we actually made that 3 hour commitment and turned it into KCAL in 1990. But I arrived in 89, and I don't know if you remember, at the time, there was a movie called Colors that
Yes, Ice
okay,
Cube, it was a big deal.
is all about gang activity. And I watched this movie. I came here from Chicago and I thought, well, I want to do something different. I don't want to focus on something that everybody else seems to be talking about so much that they would make a movie about it. So I decided to start a series called Diamonds in the Rough. And I went to different schools, high schools primarily, in what was then called South Central Los Angeles. And we found some of the students that were against all odds really finding success living in neighborhoods that these movies depicted, a lot of them growing up with parents incarcerated, being raised by grandmothers, knowing classmates who were killed in gang violence. I wanted to showcase them and talk about how well they're doing despite the odds. So that was my very first series. It was a three-part series and it aired on March 5th, 1990 for 3 days. And I just feel so good about that story, Cynthia. And the fact that I'm telling you about it today shows you how much that meant to me.
Over 36 years, that is a whole lot of headlines, a whole lot of breaking news. But are there sort of any stories that come to mind in terms of having to be fast on your feet with breaking news?
My God, over the years, I have covered so many huge breaking news stories.
Mm.
The riots, of course, in 1992. Yeah, I can remember that like it was yesterday because we were on the air with a Lakers game, and all of a sudden we were covering the outcome of the Rodney King file, and then we started seeing businesses burned at the corner of Normandy and I believe Florence.
Yeah.
So that, of course, was a difficult story to cover and not only because we were watching part of the city being destroyed, but I also remember just the newsroom. We had been around for maybe a couple of years and we had never experienced something like that so close up that affected all of our lives. I had to be calm and report things in a manner that didn't show bias, but at the same time also provide some context. This may seem small at the time, Cynthia, but I remember they kept referring to people's homes in Baldwin Hills and Ladera Heights as South Central. And those homeowners started calling, telling us, get your geography straight. We're not in South Central Los Angeles. That may seem minute at the time, but it wasn't to them. There are so many others I could talk about. The
Mhm.
earthquakes, of course, of 1994.
Sure.
And again, that was very impactful, Cynthia, because most of us had never experienced an earthquake of that magnitude.
Are there ways that you have seen the Los Angeles area change in your tenure? Whether it's city government or the nature of its neighborhoods? Anything that comes to mind from the time you started in 1989 to now?
Our demographics have changed. Obviously, that's a big difference. And because of that, neighborhoods have changed, communities have changed. I think we find ways to adapt every day, even in our storytelling. But the premise of what we have to report does not. I think the commitment to community and the focus on our different perspectives is still top of mind. Our governments have changed also. I think the city council is younger, certainly than it was when I first arrived. Yeah. We've seen a lot in terms of, well, we look at Mayor Bass being the first woman, the first Black woman, mayor of Los Angeles. I would say I've seen more female journalists who have gone on. Some of them have become general managers. That wasn't like that when I first arrived.
What would you say have been the biggest adjustments to a world now where television, which for decades had the primacy, like if it was breaking news, you went to TV, but we also go to our phones. What's been the biggest adjustment to that rhythm in the way a news operation like KCAL works?
I think because of how we have news delivered, as you mentioned, our phones, which I am happy to say we are streaming 24/7. And I am a part of that, believe it or not. If I say that, I have a show, Conversations with Pat Harvey, and it's streamed. It's on our YouTube channel. Never thought that would have happened.
Anything else in terms of milestone in your career you'd like to highlight?
Well, again, I'm just so happy to think that for all these years, my peers and especially the younger journalists still find me relevant. I think that is a tremendous honor. And to have inspired other journalists makes the journey all the more worthwhile. I'm very happy to accept this with a humble heart and humble mind. And we'll just continue to be on the mission, which is to bring impactful news and do storytelling about our viewers across the spectrum.
The viewers cannot ask for more. Pat,
Uh,
thank you so much for your time.
Cynthia, thank you. And I'll see you Friday night.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angelique Jackson. I'm one of the senior entertainment writers at Variety, and it truly is my pleasure to lead this talk today as we celebrate 10 years of Women in Motion.
And now it's time to dive deeper into the work of my great colleague, Angelique Jackson. She'll be celebrated alongside Pat Harvey and others on Friday. She joined Variety in 2019 as an events and lifestyle producer after 6 years as a producer for Entertainment Tonight. In 2020, she was promoted to film and media reporter. The following year, she was promoted to senior entertainment writer. Jackson emerged quickly as a force in Variety's newsroom. She is good at a great many things. She writes cover stories and other big features. She handles breaking news. She is fast on her feet on red carpets. She's great on camera. You'll see Jackson again alongside Mark Malkin hosting Variety's annual Golden Globe Awards red carpet livestream on January 13th. Angelique is an alumnus of the University of Georgia. She's serious about her craft as a journalist, and she's serious about Georgia football. She always champions women and trailblazing Black leaders in her work. She is a star covering a starry beat. To celebrate her award, here's a selection of passages from some of the great stories that she's delivered for Variety to date. We'll start with a clip from her cover story published May 25th, 2022, all about the women of the Jurassic Park franchise.
Dinosaurs eat man, woman inherits the earth. That quip from Laura Dern's Dr. Ellie Sattler in 1993's Jurassic Park has been immortalized on t-shirts, bumper stickers, and coffee mugs ever since the first film in the billion-dollar dinosaur franchise debuted in theaters. But that piece of sexual politics wasn't in the original script. A lot has changed in the ensuing 3 decades, but that line still roars. And it's a piece of dialogue that has become a central strand in Jurassic's DNA. Because after all, it's not just men who enjoy watching a T-Rex feast on park goers. Women dig dinosaurs too.
Jackson is a big football fan and a Georgia Bulldogs booster. This is a passage from a story she wrote last month on the Hulu football comedy Chad Powers.
First down came when CAA flagged that Omaha Productions, the company led by NFL Hall of Famer Peyton Manning, was interested in adapting a sketch from the show Eli's Places into a larger project. Of course, Powell and Waldron were already familiar with the viral clip, where Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning goes undercover at walk-on tryouts for the Penn State football team, disguised as a quirky yet supremely talented rookie named Chad Powers. The pilot opens with Powell's character, arrogant college quarterback Russ Holliday, leading his Oregon Ducks team in the national championship game against Georgia at the Rose Bowl. Just when it seems like Holliday's miraculous play will win the game, he makes a devastating mistake and drops the ball before crossing the goal line, giving Georgia the win.
Here's a vivid clip from her June 17, 2021 profile of Ms. Opal Lee. She's the 90-something Texas activist credited with helping Juneteenth to prominence as a federal holiday.
Opal Lee, as a native Texan, she was born in Marshall on October 7, 1926. Lee has been observing Juneteenth for as long as she can remember. Not all her memories of the holiday are happy ones. Lee recalls the Juneteenth when her family's home on Fort Worth's south side was burned by white neighbors. People gathered. The papers say that it was 500 strong, and that the police couldn't control them, she says, evoking the decades-old memory. My dad came home with a gun, and the police told him if he busted a cap, they let that mob have him.
Congrats to Angelique Jackson for the recognition and for her incredible professional growth over the past decade. We'll end with an example of Jackson in Hollywood heaven. When the opportunity to profile Harrison Ford came up earlier this year, Angelique was the writer we turned to. Here's a bite from her cover story published July 30th.
Harrison Ford. As he sits across from me, Ford glances at his phone and smiles. He just got a text with the gag reel from Shrinking, which wrapped filming season 3 2 weeks ago. When he presses play by accident, the audio from the clip kicks in, and the room fills with the sound of his castmates cracking each other up. Ford comes around the table to show me. There's a clip of him on the Shrinking set, bursting through the door to the Indiana Jones theme. I don't have to look over my shoulder to know that he's smiling, delighted by the memory of being part of this particular ensemble.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Michael B. Jordan is sprucing up his formal wear. The actor and multi-hyphenate will be celebrated with the American Cinematheque Award on November 20th in Hollywood. Next week, Variety will produce digital dailies out of the Doha Film Festival in Qatar, out of Goa in India, and out of the Cairo Film Festival in Egypt. Our international team logs a lot of miles in a year. Before we go, congrats to Dominic Curran. The 25-year marketing veteran has joined CAA as head of international growth for the CAA Brand Consulting Division. He will relocate from New York to London in January. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Angelique Jackson and Clayton Davis. Sticks, Nicks, Hick, Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in Monday for another episode of Daily Variety.